Hey everybody, Evan with the Grainiac here. Today we're going to be cutting up and smoking a brisket. I know I've already done this once, but this time I show you actually how to take the point off the flat, how to trim up all the fat off of there, and I also do a Dijon rub, seasonings. I give you my secret family recipe, or is it won't be a secret after this video. And I'm going to actually do it up on a grill, low and slow. You want to get that meat up to 200 degrees. That renders that fat, breaks down the collagen. That's how you get your delicious brisket. You can cook it as long as you want with some smoke, but at the end you just want to get that heat up to 200, 202. Some people go size 205. So anyway, enjoy the video, like, subscribe, share. It's going to be a little bit of a long one, but hang in there. It'll be worth it in the end. Let's do this. Thanks for watching. Okay, so here we have our brisket, 11.5 pounds. By the time I cut it all down, it's probably going to be 10 pounds. Make sure you have a bag nearby for your scraps. I like to save my scraps for sausage, or for grinding up into a hamburger, make things a little thicker. So this hard stuff you want to get rid of. That's the fat that doesn't taste good. This subcutaneous fat, you want to get the softer stuff. If it's softer, that's the stuff that tastes like butter when you're done cooking it. This harder stuff is never going to taste good, so you want to get as much of that done as you can. And then seasonings don't penetrate that thick. And again, we got some hard stuff here. And I'm going to try to separate the flat from the point on this brisket also. Well, let's go ahead and cut off that really hard stuff. Get right underneath that. Now with a sharp knife, you just slide on through. And then again, that's all just hard, not floppy stuff. Have a bag nearby. Just trying to stay away from the meat of it. And you can try to make this as pretty as you want. You can spend forever cutting our brisket. But I'm not in a competition, and I want some fat on there for flavor. And actually some fat protects the meat from burning when it's on the grill or the smoker. This I'm going to be on a grill. I'm going to shoot for 12 hours on the grill, wrap it and finish it in the oven. So again, any discolored stuff too, if you want to cut that off, cut that off. I'm not right-handed, but I can switch sometimes, left and right. All right. So again, all that stuff, that thick seam in there, pretty much just follow the meat on down. You can feel where that thick fat goes. Separating that right away. Kind of feel with your fingers. Follow it with the tip of the knife. And again, this thick fat, this is like really hard. It's not even frozen. That's the fat that you do not want. The softer stuff doesn't matter. Your seasonings can penetrate this stuff as long as it's not too thick. Poke through there. When you start seeing the meat come through, then you know you've gone a little too deep. My goal is to try to leave some of the fat on there. But if some of the fat's a little discolored, I want to get rid of that. Again, fat does taste good and it's going to render down. Think about your finished product. When it's done cooking, You have another, we still have fat to go. So, your first time doing it, you might want to go a little slower, just so you're not wasting meat and cutting too deep and making a mistake. And on the inside again, if you just want to follow that, you can get the cap, the tip off the flat. So you find where the bottom is, where the tip connects to the flat. You can follow that fat seam through. Notice the grain runs a different way than the stuff on the bottom. This grain runs this way, this grain runs this way. So you can tell that they're not the same muscle. So I'm just following that fat. And again, this is the hard fat, and that's why I'm separating the tip from the flat. Because if you're cooking this, and you cut it apart at the end and you're cutting it up for guests, this is not going to taste good and you're going to think you did a bad job, but really it's that hard fat that doesn't taste good. So we're into that top layer muscle now. There we go. And that's your flat and your point. And this is all that fat that was in between. You need to get rid of all this hard stuff. And then it'll cook quicker too, and you can save this for later and do this one now, or vice versa if you don't want to make it all at once. But you just see how much waste there is with the brisket, so it's good if you can find something to use that on. This is the softer stuff, so I don't have to get quite as much off of this tip. Just a little bit more. This has a lot more marbling in it, a lot more embedded fat. And if you're going to buy them separately, this piece is a lot more expensive than this piece, but it's a lot smaller. They just command a lot more per pound. I think that's about as trimmed as I want to get that. So that's the point. This is the flat. Alright, that's pretty good. Again, the way that's sat on there, it's kind of like that. So they run different ways. And then once you cut that fat in between, that's what you're ended up with. I don't like to cook them together all the time because when this is on here, it's a lot thicker over here. A lot thinner. So this might be not done and this is way too done. So separate them, cook them at the same time, it's even. So let's go ahead and sauce them up. All right, we're gonna make the rub for the brisket. It's not too complicated. I don't like to make it too complicated. Let the meat do the talking. So I just grabbed something to put everything in, something to stir it up. I'm gonna slather it with Dijon so the spices have something to stick to. The main ingredient is gonna be your salt. Just put, enough to cover my brisket. You don't have to use it all. Seasonings, depending on what you use, aren't very expensive. So brown sugar, about half of what I use in salt I use in brown sugar. So sugar, half of that. Salt, half of that is brown sugar. Black pepper. Beef is real good at absorbing flavor. It can take a beating, so don't feel like you're overdoing it. Crushed red pepper, give it a little zing. Some chili powder. Again, I'm just doing what I usually do and just kind of put a little bit of this and that in there, but typically the same seasonings. Cumin. Got your cumin. Let's grab the secret stash here. Garlic. Paprika. So you can tell I do quite a bit of meat. I have a lot of seasonings, big tubs. Mix that up. Get that all mixed together. Once you see it's pretty even, uniform, and it's ready to put on the brisket. And you can pretty much just throw it on the brisket and put it on the grill. You can let it soak in for an hour, overnight. The longer you let it sit on the brisket, the more it's going to penetrate. But what I've been doing is your brisket's going to cook for 12 hours anyway. That's 12 hours the seasoning is already on the brisket, so I think it gets plenty of flavor during the cooking process. It doesn't have to sit on the brisket for 12 hours and then cook for another 12. That's my take. I've done it both ways and they taste about the same. So I'm just going to rub and go. So separate, we're going to use the Dijon. Just enough to get a coating on there. So it kind of browns it up, it gives it a bit of a bark. It tastes good, and it gives the seasoning something to stick to. Flip, flip. I got about half of a jar of this I'm going to use. So 2 briskets, 1 whole thing. How's that look? I like it. Alright, seasoning. Ready to rock. And I just make sure, put it on evenly. Good coat. Again, it can absorb a lot of seasoning. Beef can. Way more than pork and chicken. Pork and chicken you can easily over-season. Beef, you can go pretty wild on it. You'd be surprised what it can take for a beating. So that's done. This is the point. And boy, I can smell it already. This is going to be delicious. Alright, so that goes into the lugger. And I'm going to start up the grill and get that on the grill. Alright, my trick for getting the charcoal going is a little cardboard on the bottom, some paper from the charcoal bag, and then since I'm smoking a brisket, I'm not going to put too much charcoal in there because I'm going to constantly be feeding it. So I'm going to light this from the bottom, let it get red hot, and then I'm going to have it off to the side in my grill. And I just, for smoking, I have hickory sawdust or hickory chips. That's what I'll be using. I'll just be kind of sprinkling them on the hot coals as I go. So, time to get this lit up. Starting off our 12-hour smoke. Ready to go. So, keep them off to the side because we want indirect heat and smoke. Alright. So, this is hot. I'm going to tuck that away. Alright, so throw a few more coals on there because you constantly want to be feeding it new stuff. Alright, we're going to warm up the grill a little bit, then I'm going to throw on the brisket, and then I'm going to be sprinkling on the wood as we go. Alright. Brisket's on. Gonna wrap them up and throw them in the oven for another. Out. All right, after resting for a while, this is the point. Brisket there. Nice and juicy. Exactly what we wanted. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and that's cutting and smoking and oven finishing. I let it rest for about an hour in the oven, just wrapped in foil. There you go.